Hey everybody, this is the first class of the Money Language Academy, and what we're going to focus on tonight is we're going to talk about the business acquisition section and primarily how to vet a business, the main things to look for to see if you even want to consider getting financials for the business, see if you even want to pursue it. The same way that you're scrolling through Zillow and you're seeing houses that look great, but then you look at it's a bad neighborhood or it's too much money or it's on a bluff and it's falling into the sea. I don't know, whatever it is, but like to be able to identify those things quickly so you don't waste your time. Because when you're buying a business, you will end up analyzing and crunching the numbers on hundreds of businesses because it takes a while to find the gems. Because there's a lot of duds out there. So, but at the same time, it's a numbers game. So if you go through enough of them, you will find the deals. So I just kind of wanted to talk about those steps, and also I wanted to bring up the community documents too that are a part of this community. All this stuff is out here for you. If you haven't gotten it yet, there's a link in the welcome message. You can get all of this stuff. So it's all yours to do with whatever you want. It will help you kind of analyze the situations. Okay, so let me share my screen. Oh, you guys didn't even see that, did you? Because I wasn't sharing my screen. Okay, that would probably make more sense. Okay, there you go. This is what I mean. This is just kind of a list of the documents, all of them that are in there, and I will continue to add documents to this. I promised the other day that I would add the strategy document, which is the deal funding strategies right there. I haven't put that on the drive yet, but I will. I'll do that tonight, right after the live or after this class. And that's the $10,000 course document that I was talking about. If you guys heard that live, so there's that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into this. So I know that a lot of you guys have heard me talk about this, but I'm going to go ahead and repeat it just so we have it down and in the community. But the main five things that you're looking for in the business acquisition vetting process when you come across a business, um, we've already talked about in the lives before recession resistant businesses. So that's the main thing. You don't want something that is like a luxury business. You don't want something that's just like hot right now at the moment, like a cold plunge business. Things like that really kind of drive me nuts because that no one's going to pay to jump in ice water when the economy turns, right? If they want to jump in ice water, they'll do it themselves. Things like that just kind of common sense, uh, first glance at a business. And then after that, it's the number one thing that you're looking for is the cash flow. And, I've said it several times, the cash flow times three needs to be greater than the asking price. So in practical terms, if they're asking $300,000 for the business, it needs to make at least $100,000 in cash flow. So, and remember, there's a difference between cash flow and general revenue and sales. Those do not mean the same thing. Cash flow is, and sometimes if it's a large business, it'll say EBITDA, EBITDA, which means earnings before income tax, depreciation, and amortization. That's what you see on a business that's usually over a million. They'll use EBITDA instead. But I would recommend everybody when you get started to look at the smaller ones first. Try to get a base hit before you hit a home run. That will allow you to put yourself in a better position to branch out from there. So that cash flow is the amount of money that the owner takes home every year. After everything's paid, the employees are paid, the debt's paid, the mortgage, whatever, everything's done, and that's their take home cash. And that times three needs to be greater than the asking price. And the reason for that is because it will pay the debt down within 3 years as long as it's less than a $1.6 million business. Um, and if we can look at the math of that in here in a second, but it also is only for non-real estate business acquisition. It's a whole different ball game if you're trying to buy the business and the real estate together. It changes the numbers. So just remember that when you're vetting a business and it says real estate included in the price, that this system doesn't quite work. We'll talk about how to vet those later. So that's the first one. The second one is the years in operation. This one's pretty straightforward, and it should be, greater than or equal to 7 years. I know that some people say 5 years is enough, but to me, 7 years is really the sweet spot because you can prop something up for 5 years. I feel like, especially if the owner is really working 60, 70 hours a week and just killing themselves to try to get the business off the ground. And some people will work 5 years at a business just to sell it. But when you're reaching that 7 year mark, you've put a big chunk of your life into that business if you're that owner. And more than likely, you're leaving not because you necessarily want to, but life or age or illness or something like that may have like pushed you out. And it also means that it's battle tested. It's been through economic downturns. It's been through, loss of employees. It's a long enough track record that it's weathered many storms. And then they likely have systems in place. If they don't have systems in place, they at least have employees that are very familiar with the day to day. Because one of the biggest risks of acquiring a business that you plan to turn absentee is if the internal employees that are already there either plan to leave when the owner sells, or they're just not capable of managing that business. So that's one of the big things that you have to worry about. And I think the 7 year mark really helps safeguard you against that. The third one is the number of employees. You want 7 employees or more. You can get away with 5, but generally you probably have to bring your own manager in there. And I say 7 because usually that's a big enough team where probably the owner could not be managing them by themselves, unless it's one of those just really, really gung-ho owners that spends every waking moment at that business. Usually there's somebody that's going to be a right-hand person that knows the hiring process, they know the bookkeeping, they know the day-to-day job stuff itself, and then they have a good rapport with the employees, the other employees. So you end up finding employees that are more well-trained, they're more dependable, they have a history. Hopefully if there's 7 employees and the thing's been going for 7 years, you can find someone that's been working there 3, 4, 5, maybe even since the beginning. And then they become your good management material because they will be your boots on the ground, so to speak, and they're going to protect your interests. And a key component to finding a good manager is to make sure that their goals are aligned with your goals. And how you can do that is with incentives and bonuses and things like that. The better they perform, the happier the customers are, the more money you make at the end of the day, and the more money they make. So it's a win-win. But that 7, from my experience, has been the magic number. And then absentee. We don't want to buy a job. Right now, you can go out and probably almost all of us could probably qualify for like a Subway franchise, and you don't have to put very much money into it. And if you're willing to work 60 hours a week for $50,000 to $60,000, then there you go. You can totally do that. But I think everybody's goal here is to get something that's more passive. And buying a business will never be fully passive, but it is definitely semi-passive if you buy it in the right way. So if the owner already has it labeled as absentee, that's a good sign because at least they're not there all the time. But you have to be very careful because that might mean they work one 10-hour shift a week. And that might, because they're not there every single day. To me, absentee is an hour a week. But it's more what you're comfortable with. So just go into it thinking, you need to know what you're capable of doing, the amount of time that you have on the side, and also know that when you buy a business, the work is front loaded to where there's going to be a very intense 2 weeks to a month where you're setting everything up and you're making sure everything's running the way that you want it to and the way it should. Then after that, it should quiet down and you're basically propping it up to where it can walk on its own if it's not already propped up. So it's going to take some time at the beginning, but it shouldn't take that amount of time in perpetuity. It should slow down and then they take it over. Okay. And then the reason for selling. This one is it's number five, but it might be the most important because it tells you so much about the business itself. You're looking for retirement, death, divorce, illness, all the bad things. It's same thing within real estate. The three D's in real estate are death, divorce, and disrepair, which means that you can add value in real estate. But for our purposes, it means that the owner is selling not because of the state of the business, but because the state of their life requires them to leave. Um, because they're getting older or they just can't physically do it anymore. They're burnt out or they just, they want to retire, whatever it is. But no one's going to put on a listing, the reason why I'm selling is because this is a big piece of crap. But they will use terms where you can discern that. Like exploring other options is one that you see quite a bit. If they were really happy with the business and they're making, good cash flow and good returns, then they wouldn't need to explore other options. They would just let that business run itself and then buy another one. That would be another option, you know. Um, or another business is taking too much of their time and they can't devote it to this. If this business was so good, then they would devote that extra time to this one and drop the other one, right? So they're trying to get rid of their dud. And then another one that I've seen that's definitely a red flag is moving to another sector. So that tells me that either they're unsuccessful with what they've been trying to do, or they just picked the wrong type of business or the wrong location for it, or they've marketed it the wrong way. Regardless, that means that it has some serious issues going on, and we don't want to buy anything that we have to, like a rehab situation. We're not stepping in like Marcus Lemonis and saying, okay, you're losing this much money. I'm going to inject capital and I'm going to turn this thing around. I'm going to do this. That's not what we want. At least at the beginning. If you feel like you have a good handle on that and you can do that later, okay. But uh, I'm still not doing that. I don't want any part of it. I think it's a little bit arrogant to think that you can just step in and fix someone's problem when they've been doing everything they can for years to try to fix it themselves. And I just don't think it's that easy. It's not like, putting new flooring in a house and it's worth more money. Business is a lot different. And some businesses need to fail so stronger ones can take over. And it's a sad, sad reality of acquisitions. But yeah, so there's the main five. I would also like to go through and just kind of show you the examples of that um, within the analyzer and kind of go through it all live. Let's see where to go. Somebody give me a state. Doesn't matter. Just
Georgia.
just well,
Illinois.
Georgia?
oh, I think I heard Georgia first. So let's try Georgia. Let's see. So the easy one is Biz Buy Sell. It's the most user friendly. And if you guys haven't, has everybody had a chance to at least start looking for businesses? I hope. If not, I would suggest that you do it as quickly as possible. Just start getting an idea of how this stuff works. So we'll just say Georgia, and we'll go to these other filters. And for Biz Buy Sell, I always hide listings without a price. If they're ashamed of the price, it's way too much money. And they never pan out. Like every time I've inquired about a business that doesn't have a price and they come back with the price, it's ridiculous. I personally don't want a home-based business, but that's just me. I would rather have something with, brick and mortar. They tend to be more established. I don't click the must-have seller financing because some owners might not say it at the beginning, but you can talk them into it if that's your thing. You build a rapport and you come with a good deal and you make it make sense to them and you can still get the seller financing. I don't click the must have real estate included either. If it does, okay. But yeah, this is one I definitely do click. Must allow absentee owner. Now, I will say this, if you go through and you don't find anything, you can come back and unclick this and look for one that has really good cash flow that you could possibly put your own management into. It has to have enough cash flow where it can justify you hiring a manager or bringing someone. Like in my case, sometimes I'll bring at least temporarily someone from one of my other businesses in there. That's one of the benefits of investing locally is the businesses are close together. You can pool your resources. Um, and I hide franchise opportunities because I'm not trying to start a new franchise. Okay, let's see what we got here. And I don't put any of the prices in there because you just never know. Okay, what do we got? Now let's do the industries too, because we want recession resistant industries. So I'm gonna put service, um, automotive.
Hey Shane,
Yeah,
sorry to interrupt. It still
no
says
problem.
Texas in all of them, not Georgia.
Oh, it did, didn't it? It went right back to
Yeah.
Texas.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, thank you. Georgia. There we go. Okay. So I usually start with service businesses and automotive. If I don't find anything there, because I still like tech, I will, click the more industries and I'll pick tech, like online and technology. I'll go ahead and pick it just to be sure. And you can also pick building and construction. That counts too. So there we go. We're going to cast a wide net here. The ones that I don't really ever pick, travel. I never pick travel. Restaurants and food because if you listen to my lives, I don't like the competition of restaurants, and I also don't like the limited shelf life of the food itself. If you don't sell it in time, it spoils, and yeah, you can deduct it, but I don't know, it's just not a good model to me. Okay, let's see what we got. Um, oh, top selling brand on TikTok. Okay, here's a car wash. Let's look at that. It looks like it's an auction though. I've never bought a business from auction. Um, okay, now these take fives, we have one in my hometown. They actually stay busy all the time, but it doesn't look like it has the cash flow. Yeah, there's just not enough information, so we'll skip this one. Let's see. Retail hub, window tinting. This is what I mean by knowing when a business is not even close to being worth it, is right here. You can see the cash flow is $25,000 and they want 200,000 for it. No freaking way. No way. Um, Commercial fence business. That one's pretty close, but that is a big business. Let's keep looking. Health supplement. Okay, let's look at this one. Okay, if you think about our first criteria there is this times three needs to be greater. Now, that's not quite there, but it's very, very well, I guess it is. Yeah, it's you're going to get 360 there, right? So it's right on that verge. So that's good. It was established in 2015. So it's been around for 10 years. That's great. Um, 4 employees. Uh-oh. FF&E is included in it. It's got a small building, only 500 square feet, but only 4 employees. That is a little risky. Um, but the numbers look good. If you don't mind possibly spending time in it yourself and you have the extra time, it could quite possibly be something. But there's one possibility. Okay. Again, this one. That's a 10 multiple. No way. Here you go. Liquor store. I don't know how you guys feel about liquor stores, ethically, but this could be a good deal, and it's been around 7 years. Now, the thing with liquor stores is there's so much theft involved in liquor that you lose quite a bit, but that theft is also a tax write-off. Um, but yeah, I'll just leave it to everybody, you know, to make that determination themselves. But I mean, just at first glance, 7 years in business, absentee owner that meets the numbers perfectly. Only 3 employees. Okay, so the owner, but it says absentee, so this might be worth looking into a little more. And it does not. Oh, there you go. Owner is absent. Hmm. I've never seen that. Owner is absent. So they just don't exist anymore? I don't know. But this one would be one that you would get more information on if you were okay with liquor stores. Um, it would require $75,000 cash down though. That's the thing. Um, but yeah, it's possibly a go. And it's as simple as just filling this out, and they will usually get back to you. Just try to be professional. Make sure that your email address is not hotlips42@gmail or something like that. Just a regular email, it's like your name at Gmail. And you don't have to put your phone number in if you don't want to. And the message that you use is something like, I'm interested in acquiring this business in the next 90 to 180 days. I would like to inquire further and look at financial data. And that's it. That's all you need to do. They will get back to you. And if you're okay with putting your number in, usually they'll call you, and you can just actually talk to them. Let's see if is it a broker? Hmm. I don't see. There's no broker listed over here, so this is probably for sale by owner, which is even better. Okay, so there's two possibles.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Uh, did you say the next 60 to 90 days?
Yeah. No, no, no. 90 to 180.
Oh,
It's really hard to close. Everybody knows that unless you're going to come in with cash, it's very difficult to close on a business in less than 90 days. And if you do, you probably haven't done your due diligence like you should have. So it just kind of establishes a little bit of credibility at the beginning, because you at least know the process. Yeah. You can
is
close on
there?
real estate in 30 days and 60 days
Oh,
easily,
yeah.
but not really a business unless you do some seller financing. But you have to be very careful that they're not hiding things from you, that they've reported the way that they should have reported on their taxes. Like, there's just so much involved in it. So yeah, yeah, 90 to 180 is kind of the sweet spot. Okay. Ooh, there's a dry cleaner. That's a good one. So you can already tell the multiple right there is pretty good. So let's look at this. So obviously, that will pay for itself quickly. Um, I don't really care about the gross revenue. I just want to, you want to make sure that it's way above this number, but the gross revenue doesn't really matter. You could have $1 billion gross revenue and still only cash flow 100,000. It
So
doesn't
when
really
it
matter.
comes so when it comes to laundromats, it's okay. Do you make an exception for the employee rule?
Yeah, because they're not really doing anything day to day. It's like the same thing with vending machine business.
Hmm.
Um, you know, if there's just a couple of employees and all they do is just go swap out things, yeah, it's because you're not managing. It's not like, a store where people are coming in. It's not like a crew of people going out and serving customers. It's yeah,
Okay.
but at the same time, you still have to be careful, because if you only have 3 employees and one gets ill, who's going to pick up that slack? The owner.
Right.
So it's still a part of it, and you still have to be careful, but it's not a deal breaker when it's more of an automated business like this.
Got it.
Shane, we have someone in the Andre's in the waiting room, I think.
Oh, uh-oh.
Oh.
Mm, okay, there we go. Sorry about that, Andre. Didn't see you. Okay. So this is a good one. So far, right? 8 employees. So why would they need 8 employees? Because it's a dry cleaner. It's not a laundromat. So this one's a little bit different, but they include the rent. This is really good because you can actually go out and look. Do they have the address here? Probably not. But once you figure out the address, you have the rent. You can see, is it fair? Is it fair market? You can look at the surrounding real estate. You can just Google price per square foot for commercial real estate in what city is this? Alpharetta, Georgia, and AI will tell you the average for that area just at the top of Google, and it's pretty accurate from what I've seen. So that will let you know, are they way underpaying? And if they are way underpaying, sometimes they're listing their business because they know they're going to have a big rent hike and their margins aren't good enough to cover it. That can happen at times. So that's great that they put it out here. They're only going to train for 2 weeks. Um, Now, we put in our list must be absentee. So it doesn't say absentee, but they must have clicked it. Otherwise, we wouldn't have gotten this business. So the owner considers it to be absentee. And relocation. That's kind of iffy,
Hmm.
but it's not one of those red flag ones. Maybe they just have to leave for family. They have someone sick in another state and they have to go, something like that. But this would be another one that you would want to get more information on. And see right here, it includes the time frame. This
Do
one
you
does.
recommend asking for a specific period of training?
It depends. This one, like you're dealing with dry cleaners, you're dealing with a lot of chemicals, and you have to be able to dispose of the chemicals in the right way. It's very rigid. So 2 weeks seems a little short for that. But that's all part of once you hit the purchase agreement phase after the due diligence, the main due diligence, then you can negotiate that. And if they absolutely are not willing to stay more than 2 weeks, you can negotiate a small salary for them to keep them on for another couple of weeks if you really feel like you need that help, especially on your first business. Like there's nothing wrong with that. And if they're a good owner and they really care about the future of the business, they're going to be willing to work with you on that. They're not going to kill a deal because you want them to stay an extra week or two. Um, they're just not. But yeah, it's important. If you think about especially highly technical things, um, something with a whole bunch of customers and intricate bookkeeping, I mean, there can be all kinds of things that you have to take into account. So, um, you don't really know until you pop the hood and you see what their systems are. Like the auto repair shop that I'm currently looking at, they half the old employees still use paper receipts, and then the young employees have to take those paper receipts in triplicate and then take pictures of them and upload them to the computer system. Things like that. It's like, okay, so all those employees have to be trained. Um, yeah, you just never know till you actually get there in person. But I mean, there you go. That's Georgia. That was 3 businesses, pretty much, 2 good ones, and you can see the process, right? So, what was your favorite out of those 3 that we just looked at? Just somebody pick one.
I like the liquor store in Hall County.
Okay, well, let's go to the liquor store. We'll analyze that further. Okay, liquor store. All right. Now let's go to the acquisition. See what we got. We have 750,000. The cash flow is 250,000. Now you just skip this. You don't put the multiple in there. It'll fill it for you. So that tells you right there that it meets our criteria. Anything above a 3 meets our cash flow criteria.
Perfect.
Yeah, gross revenue, 300,000. FF&E, none.
Why are you changing these numbers?
Why am I changing the numbers in the
Yeah,
spreadsheet?
yeah.
Well, I'm
Oh,
just I'm plugging in the numbers
oh,
from
okay,
here.
okay.
Yeah.
Plugging it
And
in on your own spreadsheet.
yeah, this is a spreadsheet that everybody has access to in the community. So you can take those numbers from your possible deal and plug them in. It'll give you more insight to, the possibilities here. So,
Oh,
um,
got it.
yeah.
It's like
Inventory,
so it's like a cheat sheet for the
ex
business that you're looking at, right?
Yeah, for
exactly.
some reason I thought that this was part of the ad, and I'm like, how is he changing it? Looks
Oh,
like
no, no. No, this was just I just opened it up on my laptop to analyze this.
cool.
Yeah. So, and the yellow boxes are the only ones you should change. Everything else should autofill by the values that you put in the yellow. Okay, makes it a little easier. So okay, so FF and E. If you don't know what FF and E is, it means furniture, fixtures, and equipment. That could be cash register, shelving, uh, that kind of stuff. Equipment, like if it's construction, it might be a bulldozer, it might be a truck. That all goes into FF and E. Now this one says NA, so that tells me that probably the place that they rent from already had the shelving and everything they needed. Their cash register, they probably don't own that. They probably rent it from the point of sale provider, which is all fine. It's all fine. Just that stuff should be included in the financials when you look through it. Okay, so inventory, it says 500,000. Now, obviously, that's not included in the asking price, and you can tell that because it has a little asterisk right here, and it says not included. So you would have to consider that as part of the deal, right? That's that underlying stuff. So you can make, you can buy all of that and get a loan from the SBA to purchase that, or you can sell or finance that. It just depends on if they actually own everything, or like sometimes in the case of cigarettes, if they're selling cigarettes, they have a weird system with tobacco where you pay for it. It's the oddest thing. Like you pay for it and then you have to reimburse and then they give you some money back. It's like you almost pay for it twice. It's a weird thing. Another reason why I wouldn't want a tobacco shop. But there you go. So we put the inventory in there. Closing date doesn't matter, but you could throw that in if you want to. So let's say 90 days from now would be, well, that'd be about right. Just about 25 in there. Okay. Now here, if because you have employees here, how many employees was that? 3. You wouldn't necessarily need a lot of working capital to pay the salaries of 3 people before you had enough cash flow. But it can't hurt. 5% is kind of the default. That's what I put in here because it gives you enough to add to the loan as a buffer. If you don't have cash on hand to cover anything that come up, or you got to get additional inventory or whatever it might be, this is an inventory heavy business. So you have to account for that first month of how do I keep it going before the money starts rolling in and pays for it, and you start cycling it over into the inventory renewal process. Okay. FF&E is included. Inventory, if additional, well, we already put that in. So, okay. So when you think about now, it looks like a really great deal, but that inventory kind of throws stuff off. So let's look and see what we have here. Come on, spread out. Okay. Now, I put the standard SBA loan is 10 years. That's usually, unless there's real estate, if there's real estate involved, they will stretch it out to 25. There's no real estate on this one. The interest rate is generally 2.5 or 3% over prime, which what that means is over the Wall Street Journal prime number. And you can just Google that. What is the Wall Street Journal prime number today? And it'll come up. I think it's the last time I looked at it was 7.5. So we're pretty close at the 10. 10-year amortization. Now, if you needed a salary, you're planning on leaving your job or whatever, you could put that here. You can actually get a loan for your first year salary if you wanted to. If this is a really good deal, you could do that. Okay. So you see, after you pay the debt, which there's your debt payments right there, right? It's $16,000 a month that you're paying back. And that ends up being $200,000 a year. And that leaves you about $50,000 left over after you service the debt, after you do everything. And that's including the inventory. Okay. If we take this out, it changes it. It becomes a much sweeter deal. So if you could do a side deal for the inventory where you seller finance that maybe at a much lower rate, a 5%, then you could run those numbers. But right now, just the business without the inventory is really nice. This is the number right here. Whoops, that the lenders are looking for, the debt service coverage ratio, and they're looking for a 1.25 on that. Anything below 1.25, they won't even consider it, whether it's SBA, local lender, it doesn't matter. They're not going to do it. But when you get over 2, then they kind of start throwing money at you. However, you still got to account for that inventory. So when you put it there, it becomes very slim. Very slim. So, but yeah, that's the process there. So you just think about, even with the inventory in there, you're going to cash flow $50,000. So you can buy this business. You can't buy it with $75,000 down if you're going to get the inventory too. You would have to put in 125,000 to get all of that inventory as well. So this one had that little gotcha in there of, oh, this is only 75,000, but you have to have all this inventory too. So that's why this spreadsheet and the nitty gritty really comes in handy. And you can look at the numbers even more if you want to. You can see your payments. This is just another tab up here, and what it looks like year 1, year 2, as you pay that loan down over 10 years, and what you end up with. You can see the 5-year plan, and if you don't know how commercial loans work, that you get a loan for 10 years, but all commercial loans come with a 5-year reset. So in 5 years, you have to come back and they're going to refinance the loan at the prevailing interest rate for at that, again, 2.5 or 3% over prime number. So if the rates have gone down, it's going to be better for you. If the rates have gone up by a lot, you could get yourself in a bind. The way things currently are, if interest rates stay around the same, you're good, because not only does it reset, but it takes all the principal that you paid. So your entire loan number compresses too, because you've paid a lot of interest, but you've also paid principal. So when it refinances, it's almost like getting a loan for 80, 90, 100, whatever you paid on the principal less. So your payment usually reduces unless we had a situation like you see from between 2020 and now, where in 2020 interest rates were 2 something, 3 something, and now they're 7.5 is the prime rate. So that's a big change. A 5-point change can sometimes bankrupt a business. So if you buy it the right way, though, you won't even make it to the 5-year reset, because you can pay the debt down in time to not even have to worry about it. Especially on businesses that are more like 300,000, 400,000, those are much easier to pay down and not ever even get close to that 5-year reset. So that's why I say
I
start small.
got a
Okay.
question.
Okay.
Yeah, so you said it went from 75,000 to $125,000 down. So is that because you're saying 10% on the 750 and then another 10% on the 500,000 inventory?
Yeah, if you're trying
Gotcha.
to include that in your main loan and you don't work something out on the side with the lender, with the owner, yeah. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a no-go because you can work out a deal for inventory where you can split the profits with with that current owner, right? So they know how much inventory they have. And you could say, okay, I can't make this happen on my own. I can't get a loan for all of that inventory. But what I'm willing to do is I will give you 25% of the profits as we sell it. I'll pay you back, the obviously, the cost of goods sold plus 25% of the profit or 50% of whatever you're comfortable with, where you still can cash flow enough to where you can pay for the debt for that first year. And then when you look at the financials, you have to see, okay, how long does it take this business to churn through $500,000 in inventory? It might be selling so much that it takes 4 or 5 months and you've already churned through it. So in 4 or 5 months time, you may be able to pay that owner off and still service your debt, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. It just depends on what they're willing to do. But there are
So that's
always
all things
little,
that you would do in your due diligence process so you can
yeah,
come back to the negotiation table. I got you.
absolutely, absolutely. Once you get those financials and you see what they're doing month to month, your P&L, and then you see your year to date statement, you can say, okay, last month they had this much in sales and this much in cost of goods sold. And then okay, it's going to take me about 4 months to sell this inventory, or 6 months, or 1 month, who knows? But there are a lot of alternate routes, and that's why business acquisition, you can get so creative, so much more creative than real estate. Real estate, you've got sub two and you've got seller financing, and that's about it. There's not a lot of fancy stuff you can do past that, but it's endless with this. You can do things like, keep the current owner, give them some equity where they, in order for them to give you that $500,000 inventory, you give them 10% of the business from here on out. If that works, I mean, I'm not saying that's a smart idea, but it's a possibility. You just don't know.
On the other screen where you were talking about the loan costs, and I
This one,
believe, yeah, and then working capital, are like interchangeable? Or do you need 37.5 plus another 37.5 under uses of capital?
right
Yep. So
here.
yeah. So the working,
Well, this is closing costs. Is that what you mean?
yep. So you need that for the closing costs and then another 37.5, like for the
You don't.
business.
Well, you don't necessarily need. I just default to 5% in a business like this with that many employees. I figure that's plenty. Like
Okay.
when I'm doing deals now, I generally, unless it would be a big business, I would just cover that myself. And you can get credit cards in the business name because it's established. It's been using the same bank accounts for years. So it has a track record. And you come in there, you go to that same bank and you get some business credit. You can also get, a line of credit through the bank and not have to put it into here. But and you might even get a more favorable rate than the 10 you're going to get here too. So if your margins are slim and you're looking for ways to cut it off, that's where you can start shaving it right there. You can say, okay, maybe I don't need this much working capital, or maybe I can get it elsewhere, or you could capital stack, or there's a lot of different things that you can do. But yeah, that's where you would try to shave that off. It is right there, and then see what you could do with the inventory as well. And really, 5% that's a little high for closing costs. You could probably bring that down to more like 3. It depends on the bank. But yeah, so that I mean that's how I've been doing it is I go through and I'll get a cluster of these businesses and I'll say, okay, this is my favorite one that I found tonight just by eyeballing it using the Fab Five. And then I'll start plugging it into the spreadsheet and really dig into the numbers. And if these numbers work, and especially like the auto repair shop that I'm looking at right now, this number is a 4. The DSCR on that is a 4. And when I see a number that's that high, I have to be careful not to get too excited about it when I talk to the owners because they don't know what they're selling. Either that or I'm off on my numbers. But either way, it requires going in and looking and verifying and eventually taking that stuff to an accountant and make sure they're not hiding something. But yeah. I mean, ideally, you would want something a little higher than this. This is right on the edge. I I would want something more of a 1.5 personally.
Okay.
But you could make it a 1.5 by getting creative with these other numbers too. Okay.
Mhm.
But yeah, there you go. So this was the first class. I would encourage everybody to go and just start looking at what's near you. Go through all the different sites, find the one that you like the best off of that top 10 sites. Because they all work, they all have a little, pros and cons to each one. If you like more internet podcast related kind of businesses, Flippa is a good one. It's got more than that. If you like just ease of use, it's probably Biz Buy Sell. But which just find the one that works for you. Maybe even look on Facebook Marketplace and apply those 5 principles to it. And then if it passes that test, then plug it in and see what the DSCR is. See what the actual numbers look like. Okay. And then we can go from there. And if you feel like, okay, I think this might be the one, then the next phase is you're going to, request the financials. You're going to reach out and you're going to ask for a few things. You want 3 years, at least 3 years, if not 5 years of tax returns. Sometimes they will only give you 3 initially, and then you have to wait till due diligence to get the 5, but at least 3 years of tax returns. You want 3 years of profit and loss statements. Now, a profit and loss statement is a collection of everything for the whole year. The revenue, the cash flow, the inventory, all the money in and all the money out, essentially is what the profit and loss is. And then you want the year-to-date statement. So a year-to-date statement is just the profit and loss from January 1st to whatever date you ask for it. So you can, because last year might have been great, but this year could have started off and they're just down in a downward spiral. Something is going on, and maybe you want to know, you want up-to-date financial information. And once you get that information, the first thing you want to do is you want to check the cash flow number against the tax return and make sure that those things match. And I think I'll probably, the next time we do a business acquisition, I will go over that. We'll look at some numbers. I have some from the current business. I can just blur out the things that are, I don't know, that they don't want me talking about, the names and addresses and things like that. And then we can show how that stuff matches up. Because then if it matches up, then these numbers in the spreadsheet are correct. And then if you can actually do a letter of intent, you can start looking at lenders, you can start taking the next steps. But if the numbers don't match, that's a deal breaker. That means they're hiding something. They're doing something incorrect. But there's sometimes the numbers don't match, but that's because of add backs. They might have a leased car, or they have a big salary. But we'll look into that. I can show you the reasons that are not bad reasons why those numbers wouldn't match. But they should still, when you add the stuff back in, should still get you that cash flow number. Okay. Cool. So